You lose your power every time you react. You hand your peace to the world every time you let anger, fear, or ego pull your strings. Stoic stillness isn't silence, it's strength under control. This audiobook will teach you how to stop reacting, start responding, and reclaim the only thing you ever truly owned, your mind. This is not motivation. This is mastery. Welcome to the Power of Stoic Stillness. Mastering emotional control now. Chapter 1. Stop reacting. Start ruling. You lose power every time you react. Every single
time.
When you flinch, when you lash out, when you take the bait, you hand your control to the world. You tell the world, you decide how I feel. You decide how I think. You decide who I become. That's not strength. That's slavery. The first sign of real power is restraint. The ability to stay unmoved when everything around you demands a reaction. The ability to say, no, I will not give you my energy. Because here's the truth, reacting is easy. Anybody can explode. Anybody can rant. Anybody can let anger, ego, or fear take the wheel. But it takes discipline to pause. It takes clarity to choose your response. You have a choice. That's the key. Every moment you feel provoked, by people, by news, by failure, by disrespect, you face a decision. Will I rule myself? Or will I be ruled by everything else? That is the line between weakness and strength. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his greatest battles were inside his own mind. While chaos erupted around him, he practiced stillness. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood the timeless truth. The man who reacts is a servant. The man who rules himself is a king. So ask yourself, how many times today did you react? To a rude comment? To traffic? To someone not texting back fast enough? To your own fear of not being enough? That's how much control you gave away. You don't need their approval. You don't need their apology. You don't need their respect to maintain your peace. You only need mastery over yourself. React less. Observe more. Rule yourself or be ruled by everything. That's the mantra of emotional power. You must learn to step back.
Breathe.
Observe before you move. You're not ignoring reality. You're mastering it. When you pause, you gain perspective. You see patterns others miss. You act from logic, not impulse. That's what separates the average from the exceptional. In business, the most dangerous leader isn't the loud one. It's the calm one. The one who speaks when it's necessary. The one who doesn't take things personally. The one who sees the bigger picture, while others drown in emotion.
Calm is not passivity.
Calm is control.
Control is power.
People think control means dominating others. It doesn't. Control means mastering the only battlefield that matters, your own reaction. You can't control what people say. You can't control what happens next. But you can always control how you interpret it. And that interpretation, that tiny space between stimulus and response, that's where your freedom lives. You have a choice. Every single time. When someone disrespects you, pause. When something fails, pause. When life hits you with disappointment, pause. And in that pause, decide how to move. Not emotionally. Not impulsively. Deliberately. Powerfully. That's ruling yourself. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. You feel everything, but you act on what matters. You feel anger, but you don't let anger lead. You feel fear, but you don't let fear dictate. The Stoics called this the discipline of perception. The practice of seeing clearly before reacting blindly. Marcus Aurelius wasn't calm because he lacked emotion. He was calm because he trained it. So must you. Here's your training. For 1 week, practice the pause. Every time you feel the urge to react, stop.
Count to 5.
Ask yourself, what outcome do I want here? Then respond with intention. You'll notice something. The world starts losing its control over you. The same events happen, but they no longer shake you. People still test you, but you no longer crumble. You become the observer, not the puppet. You start ruling yourself. That's the quiet evolution of power. Look around. Most people live in reaction. They scroll, they rage, they complain, they panic. They let every tweet, every headline, every look control their emotions. They think they're living, but they're being controlled. When you stop reacting, you break the chain. You become untouchable. No one can manipulate you through emotion anymore. No one can bait you into chaos. Because you've built an internal fortress of calm. That's mental toughness. That's emotional control. That's real freedom. Repeat this to yourself daily. I control my response. I control my focus. I control my state. Say it when you wake up. Say it when you're angry. Say it when you feel like reacting. This is your discipline. This is your training ground. Because life will keep testing you. And every test asks the same question. Will you react, or will you rule? The person who rules their emotions can lead armies. The person who reacts can't even lead themselves. You don't need more motivation. You need more mastery. You don't need their validation. You need your own restraint. You don't need to prove power. You need to embody it, quietly. The loudest person in a room is rarely the strongest. Real strength doesn't shout. It observes. It moves with purpose. It acts with calm. Remember, every time you react, you lose time, energy, and focus. Every time you stay calm, you gain clarity, precision, and control. You have to decide which one you value more, momentary satisfaction or lifelong mastery. You are not your reaction. You are your response. That's the foundation of emotional control. That's the first rule of ruling yourself. The more you practice restraint, the more power you accumulate. Because while others waste energy reacting, you conserve energy for creation. While others fight battles that don't matter, you prepare for the ones that do. This is not about being passive. It's about being powerful on purpose. Calm is not weakness. Calm is strength trained to stay silent. You have a choice. Every time. Choose to rule. Choose to rise. Choose to stay centered when others collapse. Because the world doesn't need more reactors, it needs more rulers. React less. Observe more. Rule yourself, or be ruled by everything. You've taken the first step toward mastery, restraint. You've learned the value of the pause, the power of control, and the cost of reaction. You've stopped reacting. Now you're learning to rule. But self-rule isn't built in silence alone. It's tested in chaos. And to survive chaos, you need separation. You need space between your mind and the madness of the world. Chapter 2. Detach from the noise. The world is loud. Everyone's talking. No one's listening. Everyone's reacting. No one's thinking. You wake up to noise. You scroll through noise. You go to sleep with noise buzzing in your mind. And slowly, quietly, you lose yourself in it. Emotional chaos is a trap disguised as urgency. Everything is made to look like it matters right now. Every notification, every opinion, every argument, it all screams for your attention. But not everything urgent is important. And not everything loud deserves your focus. That's the key. You have to learn to separate the signal from the noise. Because the noise will consume you if you don't. The noise thrives on reaction, and we already learned what reaction costs you. Every reaction is a transaction. Every time you give attention to nonsense, you pay with your peace. You scroll through headlines designed to make you angry. You read comments designed to make you doubt yourself. You get pulled into the emotional whirlpool and call it staying informed. But you're not informed. You're inflamed. You're not aware. You're distracted. You have a choice. You can stay plugged into the chaos, or you can reclaim your clarity. Most people never choose. They live as antennas, absorbing everyone else's emotions. They wake up drained, not because they worked hard, but because they consumed too much noise. Noise from the internet. Noise from people. Noise from their own overthinking. The Stoics understood this long before smartphones existed. They practiced mental separation. They chose what deserved their attention. They decided what thoughts were worth entertaining and which ones to ignore. That's your mission now. Selective focus. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to respond to every opinion that mentions your name. You don't have to care about everything the world throws in front of you. Because not everything deserves a piece of your mind. Every reaction is a transaction. Stop paying attention to nonsense. The world wants you emotional because emotional people are predictable. They can be sold to. They can be controlled. They can be provoked into wasting time, energy, and identity. But when you detach, when you learn to observe instead of absorb, you become dangerous. You can see clearly. You can move strategically. You can think instead of react. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring intelligently. It means you invest your energy where it matters, not where it's demanded. You don't need to comment on everything. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to prove you're right. You just need to stay centered. Because the noise will always exist. It's not going anywhere. But you can rise above it. Imagine a still lake in the middle of a storm. Wind, thunder, waves, chaos everywhere. But deep beneath the surface, the water is unmoved. That's you when you detach. You can hear the world screaming, but you don't internalize it. You can see the madness, but you don't join the dance. That's control. That's peace. But it doesn't happen by accident. You must train it. Here's how you start. Step 1. Limit input. Every morning, before you touch your phone, spend 10 minutes in silence. No scrolling. No checking. No responding. Let your mind wake up to your own thoughts, not the world's noise. You'll notice something. Your anxiety drops. Because most anxiety doesn't come from your life. It comes from the endless noise about other people's lives. Step 2. Audit your attention. Ask yourself, what am I constantly feeding my mind? What accounts do I follow? What conversations do I allow? What stories am I repeating? You'll see a pattern. Your mood follows your media. If you feed your mind chaos, you'll feel chaos. If you feed your mind calm, you'll create calm. That's the key. You control the feed. Step 3. Practice emotional fasting. Just like your body needs rest from food, your mind needs rest from stimulation. Once a week, disconnect completely. No news. No social. No noise. Just silence, reflection, and stillness. You'll realize how addicted you were to distraction. You'll realize how afraid you were of quiet. But in that quiet, your real strength returns. Because clarity is born in silence, never in noise. Every reaction is a transaction. Stop paying attention to nonsense. Remember, emotional detachment isn't about isolation. It's about elevation. It's not about ignoring people. It's about protecting your peace. It's not about arrogance. It's about awareness. You are not cold. You are clear. You are not heartless. You are focused. You are not disconnected. You are disciplined. That's the transformation. When you detach, you gain control over your time, your mind, and your emotions. You start creating instead of reacting. You start leading instead of following. You start living on purpose instead of surviving on impulse. Every time you feel tempted to dive into noise, remind yourself, this doesn't deserve my reaction. Say it until it becomes instinct. Say it until the noise no longer pulls you. Because once you detach, the world's chaos becomes background music. It plays, but it no longer commands your attention. You don't need their permission to be peaceful. You don't need the world's approval to be focused. You don't need to win every argument to win your life. You just need discipline. That's the key. You can't hear your own thoughts when you're drowning in everyone else's. You can't build your purpose if your attention is scattered across distractions. And you can't control your emotions if you never create distance from what provokes them.
Detachment is distance.
Distance creates clarity. Clarity creates control. That's the formula. So when the world gets loud, when opinions flood your screen, when people try to bait you into chaos, step back. Observe. Choose silence over reaction. That silence will terrify them because it's the sound of power. When you stop reacting to the noise, you force the world to deal with your calm. And nothing is more unsettling to chaos than composure. Detach from the noise. Reclaim your focus. Guard your peace. Because in a world addicted to reaction, stillness is rebellion. Every reaction is a transaction. Stop paying attention to nonsense. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be effective. You don't need to win arguments. You need to win your mind. That's how you rise above the noise. That's how you build emotional control. That's how you start mastering stillness. You've learned to stop reacting. Now you've learned to detach. You've created distance between your emotions and the chaos of the world. That's the foundation of peace. That's the starting point of real control. But clarity without self-command is still fragile. To turn detachment into dominance, you must go deeper, into discipline, into ownership, into strength that doesn't shake. Chapter 3. The weak crave control. The strong control themselves. Everybody wants control.
Control over people.
Control over outcomes. Control over how the world sees them. But here's the truth. The weak crave control over others. The strong control themselves. That's the difference between chaos and mastery.
Between ego and discipline.
Between pretending to lead and actually leading. You see, trying to control the world is weakness in disguise. It's fear pretending to be power. It's insecurity pretending to be authority. Because the moment your peace depends on someone else's behavior, you've already lost. The moment your happiness depends on everything going your way, you're already defeated. You can't rule the world until you rule your mind. That's the key. The truth is simple. Real power starts with internal control. Control of your emotions. Control of your impulses. Control of your reactions. That's where greatness lives, inside restraint, not dominance. Weak people try to control others because they don't trust themselves. Strong people control themselves because they don't need to control anyone else. Look at the world's greatest leaders. They don't shout. They don't panic. They don't demand submission. They radiate calm. They radiate certainty. They radiate presence. That's what earns respect, not fear, not authority, not intimidation. When crisis hits, the weak explode. They blame. They micromanage. They grasp for control. The strong breathe. They assess. They act with precision. Because they know chaos outside means discipline inside. You can't control the weather. You can't control traffic. You can't control people's opinions. But you can always control your response. You can always control your focus. You can always control your state. That's mastery. It's not about being right. It's about being effective. It's not about domination. It's about direction. Weak people think leadership is about control. Strong people know leadership is about composure. Because composure builds trust. And trust builds influence. Look at the calmest person in the room. That's the one people follow. Not because they talk the most, but because they think the most. You can't rule the world until you rule your mind. So, let's talk about ruling your mind. Let's talk about the daily discipline of self-control. Control starts small. Control starts with a choice. You have a choice when you wake up. Do you reach for your phone, or do you reach for your focus? You have a choice when someone disrespects you. Do you react with anger, or respond with clarity? You have a choice when things fall apart. Do you panic or do you plan? Every moment, you have a choice. That's the key. Stop trying to control what you can't. Start mastering what you can. That's how you shift from weakness to strength. Most people waste their life trying to fix everyone else, trying to make people act right, trying to make life easier, trying to make outcomes certain. It's an illusion. You can't control the uncontrollable. You can only control your character, your consistency, and your commitment. That's what the strong do. The weak say, "I'll be calm when things go my way." The strong say, "I'll stay calm no matter what happens." The weak say, "I'll be happy when they respect me." The strong say, "I'll stay focused whether they respect me or not." The weak chase external control. The strong practice internal command. It's not about perfection. It's about power. And power begins with discipline. When you control yourself, you control outcomes indirectly. Because people trust calm. People follow composure. People respect consistency. When you're calm in the storm, people anchor to you. That's leadership. There's a story about a general during battle, explosions all around, men panicking, chaos everywhere. He didn't shout. He didn't run. He calmly lit a candle, spread out a map, and planned his next move. His men saw that. Their fear disappeared, because his calm was louder than the chaos. That's the energy you need to live with. You don't need to control the battle. You need to control your breathing. You don't need to control the noise. You need to control your focus. Because when you do, the world responds to you differently. People sense power when they can't shake you. They sense strength when they can't provoke you. They sense authority when they can't make you react. That's why internal control matters. Because it's the only control that lasts. You can't rule the world until you rule your mind. So how do you build this kind of control? You practice it daily. You control your mouth, stop saying everything you think. You control your time, stop wasting it on things that don't move you forward. You control your emotions, stop letting anger drive your decisions. You control your environment, stop surrounding yourself with chaos and calling it energy. It's not about being controlling. It's about being intentional. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. The weak let emotions drive the car. The strong keep emotions in the passenger seat. They still feel, but they decide the direction. That's the key. You don't need their permission to stay composed. You don't need the world's agreement to be calm. You don't need perfect conditions to have discipline. You just need to decide. Control yourself first. Everything else follows. That's the principle of Stoic strength. That's how leaders are built. Because once you master yourself, external chaos becomes irrelevant. You stop wasting energy fighting what doesn't matter. You start using that energy to build what does. You move from control to influence, from ego to excellence, from reaction to response. The world doesn't change because you demand it to. The world changes because you show it what control looks like. That's your responsibility. That's your power. And if you fail at that, if you let others dictate your emotions, you hand them the keys to your mind. You become their puppet, not your own master. You can't rule the world until you rule your mind. Remember that the next time you want to change someone, the next time you want to fix someone, the next time you want to control the outcome, ask yourself, have I controlled myself first? If not, start there. Always start there. Because once you rule your own thoughts, you stop needing to rule anyone else's. Once you master your own emotions, you stop fearing theirs. Once you command yourself, you stop chasing control because you've already won it. That's the quiet confidence of the strong. You can't rule the world until you rule your mind. You can't lead others until you lead yourself. You can't control outcomes until you control your reactions. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's not submission. That's strength. You don't need to dominate the world. You need to dominate your inner chaos. When you do, you stop living from impulse and start living from purpose. And when you live from purpose, you become unstoppable. You've learned to stop reacting. You've learned to detach from the noise. Now you're learning to rule yourself, to control what truly matters. That's how stillness becomes strength. That's how emotional control becomes leadership. You've mastered the art of self-command. Now it's time to master what keeps that command alive. The art of calm, the strength of stillness, the power to stay steady when others crumble. Chapter 4. Calm is a superpower. The world is loud. Everyone's shouting. Everyone's reacting. Everyone's in a hurry to speak. But no one's calm enough to think. That's why calm people dominate. Because in a world driven by emotion, the one who stays composed wins every time. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. Calm is clarity. Calm is power. When everyone else is losing their mind, the calm person becomes the center of gravity. They become the one others look to. Because calmness signals leadership. Calmness signals mastery. You can't fake calm. It's earned. It's trained. It's built in silence, through repetition and discipline. And here's the truth. Calm is a decision. You have a choice. Every time chaos hits, you have two options: react or respond. Weak people react.
Strong people decide. Slow down. Breathe.
Decide, don't react. That's the key. When emotions surge, your power disappears. When you slow your breathing, your power returns. When you stay calm, your mind stays open. And when your mind stays open, you see what others can't. That's what calm does. It gives you vision when everyone else is blinded by panic. Think about it. In every crisis, who do people follow? Not the loudest voice. Not the angriest one. They follow the one who's calm. Because calm creates certainty. And certainty is magnetic. Elite soldiers know this. They train it daily. Before they pull the trigger, they don't just aim, they breathe. They slow down their heart rate. They bring their mind and body into perfect alignment. Because calm hands don't shake. Calm minds don't miss. That's not emotion. That's control. That's power. The same principle applies to you, in business, in relationships, in life. You win when you can stay calm while others lose their focus. Because calmness allows you to see the full board when others only see the next move. It lets you think long-term while everyone else reacts short-term. It's not about reacting fast. It's about reacting right.
Slow down. Breathe.
Decide, don't react. You can't lead from panic. You can't build from chaos. You can't think when you're triggered. When you're calm, you can do all three. The problem is most people believe calmness is something that just happens. They think it's natural, that some people are just born calm. They're wrong.
Calm is trained.
Calm is built. Calm is practiced every day through self-awareness and control. You build calm when you stop letting your phone dictate your attention. You build calm when you pause before replying in anger. You build calm when you breathe through discomfort instead of escaping it. Every moment you choose stillness over reaction, you get stronger. Every breath you take instead of exploding, you become more dangerous in the right way. Because calm is not passivity. Calm is preparation. Calm is what allows you to strike precisely, not emotionally. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about mastering them. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. You can't stop pressure, but you can learn to stay steady beneath it. That's the work. That's discipline.
Slow down. Breathe.
Decide, don't react. When you start living by that rule, your life changes. Suddenly, arguments don't control you. Delays don't shake you. Disrespect doesn't derail you. Because you've trained yourself to pause, to process, to choose your response like a professional, not a child. That's the transformation. You stop being a slave to emotion. You start becoming a master of energy. And here's something most people never realize. Calm people win not because they're smarter, but because they see longer. They're not blinded by emotion, so they see what's coming next. That's why calmness compounds. When you stay calm once, it's discipline. When you stay calm every day, it's identity. You become known for it. People start trusting you. They start deferring to you. Because calmness earns respect faster than words ever could.
Slow down. Breathe.
Decide, don't react. Now here's the question. How do you build this power in the real world?
Here's how.
You start by controlling your physiology. Your body controls your brain more than you think. Step 1, control your breathing. Deep inhale. Hold. Slow exhale. Repeat it. Again. And again. That single act tells your nervous system, I'm safe. I'm in control. Your heart slows. Your muscles relax. Your mind clears. Step 2, control your posture. Stand tall. Sit straight. Your body language is your mental language. If you collapse your shoulders, you signal defeat. If you open your chest, you signal confidence. Step 3, control your focus. When you feel overwhelmed, zoom out. Ask, what actually matters right now? Most of what triggers you doesn't matter tomorrow. Step 4, control your environment. You can't stay calm in constant noise. You can't stay clear in constant drama.
Simplify.
Eliminate. Protect your peace like it's oxygen. That's how you build calmness that lasts. You have a choice. You can keep reacting like everyone else, frantic, fragile, and unfocused. Or you can slow down, breathe, and decide like the strong do. That's the key. And understand this. Calmness doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care intelligently. It means you use emotion as a tool, not a weapon. It means you protect your energy so you can direct it where it matters. Calm is strength. Calm is clarity. Calm is freedom. Because when you stay calm, you stay in control. When you stay calm, nothing can be taken from you internally. People can insult you, but they can't move you. Situations can test you, but they can't define you. Calm turns you into a fortress. Unshakable, unmoved, unbothered. And that's what this world needs. Less noise, more composure. Less reaction, more intention. Less panic, more presence.
Slow down. Breathe.
Decide, don't react. The weak lose themselves in emotion. The strong use emotion as fuel. The weak chase control outside. The strong create calm inside. It's not about being cold. It's about being composed. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about facing them with power instead of panic. You have a choice every single day. When the pressure builds, when emotions rise, when people push your buttons, that's your test. That's where calm becomes a superpower. That's where strength becomes visible. That's where self-control becomes leadership. Because calm isn't what you show, it's what you hold. It's the quiet energy that says, I'm not afraid. I'm prepared. You can't control the storm, but you can become the eye of it. That's the goal. That's the discipline. That's the power.
Slow down. Breathe.
Decide, don't react. You've learned to stay calm when others lose control. You've learned to breathe when others break. You've learned to respond, not react. Now it's time to turn that calm into consistency, the ability to show up every day, even when motivation dies. Chapter 5. Pain is information, not suffering.
Pain.
It's the one thing everyone tries to escape. But you can't outrun it. You can't avoid it. You can only learn from it, or be destroyed by it. Pain isn't punishment. It's feedback. It's information. It's your body and mind telling you something. You have a choice. Interpret it, or dramatize it. That's the difference between growth and suffering. Pain becomes suffering when you personalize it. When you start thinking, why me, instead of what is this teaching me? That's the key. You can't control when pain shows up, but you can control what you do with it. That's what separates the strong from the weak. The weak react. They complain. The strong reflect. They adapt. That's how transformation begins. Feel it. Learn from it. Move forward stronger. Pain has always been the teacher of the disciplined. Seneca was exiled, and instead of collapsing, he wrote. He turned his isolation into insight. He used pain as his classroom. He used discomfort as his curriculum. That's what mastery looks like. Every great thinker, soldier, athlete, and creator, they all share one thing in common. They've suffered, but they never stayed stuck in suffering. They studied their pain. They extracted meaning. They turned it into motion. Pain is the language of growth. It tells you exactly where you need to pay attention. It tells you exactly what still owns you. That's not a curse. That's guidance. Feel it. Learn from it. Move forward stronger. But most people never learn this. They avoid pain like it's poison. They run from discomfort, then wonder why they never grow. They want progress without pressure, evolution without endurance.
It doesn't work that way.
You can't build strength in comfort. You can't build wisdom in ease. Every breakthrough is born from pressure. Pain is not the problem. Resistance to pain is. When you resist, pain multiplies. When you accept, pain transforms. Acceptance doesn't mean liking it. It means facing it. It means saying, I see you. I hear you. I'm learning from you. That's discipline. That's emotional control. That's how you turn pain into purpose. You need to start seeing pain as data. That's all it is, data. Physical pain tells you about your limits. Emotional pain tells you about your attachments. Mental pain tells you about your beliefs. If you can decode it, you can use it. If you ignore it, it'll repeat itself until you finally learn. The universe doesn't waste lessons. If you fail to learn from pain, it'll deliver the same test again, only louder. That's how life works. Feel it. Learn from it. Move forward, stronger. Let's make it practical. You fail at something, what do you do? Most people spiral. They overthink. They dramatize. You step back and analyze. Ask, what did this pain reveal? Maybe it showed you your impatience. Maybe it exposed a lack of discipline. Maybe it reminded you of an old wound you never healed. Whatever it showed you, that's the data.
Study it.
Pain without analysis is wasted. Pain with reflection becomes wisdom. That's the key. Every pain carries a message. Physical pain might say, rest. Emotional pain might say, detach. Mental pain might say, rethink. If you listen, you'll grow. If you react, you'll repeat. It's not about the pain. It's about the interpretation. The same situation that breaks one person can build another. Same pain. Different response. The difference?
Discipline.
Awareness.
Choice.
You have a choice. Every time pain shows up, you decide whether it becomes your teacher or your tormentor. Feel it. Learn from it. Move forward, stronger. You can't talk about growth without talking about pain. They're inseparable.
The gym teaches it best.
You lift. You tear muscle fibers.
You rest.
You rebuild stronger. That's not suffering. That's adaptation. That's biology. That's life. It's the same mentally and emotionally. Rejection, loss, betrayal. These are mental workouts. They stretch you. They test you. They make you stronger if you let them. That's the key, if you let them. You can't control pain, but you can control its purpose. You decide whether it becomes fuel or poison. And remember, pain doesn't always mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it means you're breaking through. Ask any athlete. The pain of progress feels like burning. The pain of damage feels like tearing. Learn to tell the difference. That's wisdom. Pain can sharpen your focus. It can wake you up. It can remind you what matters. But only if you stay awake long enough to listen. You can't numb your way to strength. You can't distract your way to wisdom. Stop reaching for comfort every time life gets hard. Stop medicating your emotions with entertainment, attention, or escape. That's weakness disguised as coping. Face your pain. Sit with it.
Study it.
That's what the Stoics did. That's what warriors do. That's what leaders do. They don't ask for less pain. They ask for more understanding. Because they know pain is a signal. It says, there's something here you haven't mastered yet. Feel it. Learn from it. Move forward stronger. Here's a truth most never learn. The same pain that once broke you can one day guide others, if you face it fully. Your scars can become your story. Your story can become someone else's survival manual. That's how purpose is born, through processed pain. But it starts with you. You must stop dramatizing pain. Stop labeling it as unfair. Stop identifying with it. You are not your pain. You are what you do with it. You can let it define you, or you can let it refine you. You can let it cage you, or you can let it carve you into something greater. That's your choice. That's always your choice. Pain is information, not suffering. It's neutral until you give it meaning. Feel it. Learn from it. Move forward, stronger. You've faced your pain. You've stopped dramatizing it. You've learned to listen instead of resist. That's emotional maturity. That's mental toughness. That's growth. Now it's time to turn that awareness into endurance, the ability to stay steady no matter how long the storm lasts. Chapter 6. Emotion is energy. Channel it, don't waste it. Anger.
Fear.
Sadness. You've been told to suppress them, to hide them, to pretend they don't exist. But that's a lie. Emotions aren't the enemy. They're energy. They're fuel. They're raw power waiting to be directed. Emotion itself isn't weakness, reaction is. When you learn to channel emotion instead of being consumed by it, you stop being reactive and start becoming powerful. That's the key. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. Every emotion has a purpose. Anger shows you what matters. Fear shows you where you still need courage. Sadness shows you what you value and need to release. But here's what most people do: they waste it. They explode in anger. They collapse in fear. They drown in sadness. They burn their energy in reaction instead of direction. They let emotion run wild instead of putting it to work. Emotion is neutral until you give it meaning. Emotion is potential until you give it a mission. That's your job. That's self-mastery. To take the raw power of emotion and aim it at something productive. Anger, for example, can destroy you, or it can drive you. It's the same emotion, just used differently. Some people use anger to lash out. The disciplined use anger to lock in. They take rejection, disrespect, and doubt, and turn it into fuel. They say, "All right, I see you. Now watch what I build." That's control. That's power. That's emotional alchemy, turning fire into focus. You don't need to suppress anger. You need to refine it. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. Fear works the same way. Fear isn't your enemy, it's your compass. It shows you where growth lives. It points directly to the next level. When you feel fear, it's not a stop sign. It's a signal. It's saying, pay attention. This matters. But weak minds run. They avoid. They choose comfort over progress. Strong minds lean in. They know fear is a teacher in disguise. They use the energy of fear to sharpen their preparation, to heighten their awareness, to build discipline under pressure. You can't kill fear, but you can train it to work for you. You can convert fear into focus. That's what professionals do. That's what leaders do. That's what mastery looks like. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. Sadness is the third one, and it's the most misunderstood. Sadness doesn't mean you're broken. It means something inside you has depth. Sadness reminds you that you cared, that you invested your energy somewhere that didn't turn out how you hoped. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a signal of humanity. But here's where strength separates from fragility. Weak people wallow in sadness. They replay the story endlessly. They build identity around pain. Strong people process sadness. They sit with it. They let it pass through them. Then they extract the lesson and move forward clearer, lighter, freer. Sadness, when processed, becomes clarity. It cuts away illusions. It resets your emotional foundation. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. You see, every emotion carries energy, but that energy needs direction. Without discipline, emotion burns you. With discipline, emotion builds you. It's not about feeling less. It's about using more. You can take that same energy you waste on frustration and pour it into training. You can take that anxiety and turn it into preparation. You can take heartbreak and turn it into hunger. That's emotional transmutation, turning chaos into control. And the most powerful people in history mastered this art. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while burying his children and leading through plague. He wrote about sorrow. He wrote about fear. But he never collapsed. He channeled. Michael Jordan, angered by being cut from his high school team. He didn't sulk. He didn't complain. He trained. Harder. Louder. Smarter. That's what channeling looks like. Emotion. Direction. Power. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. So, how do you do it in practice? Here's the process. Step 1, name it. When emotion hits, identify it clearly. Don't hide it. Don't deny it. Say, this is anger. This is fear. This is sadness. Naming it gives you ownership. Step 2, breathe through it. Your breath is your regulator. Every deep, controlled breath pulls energy back from chaos into your command. That's how you cool the fire without killing it. Step 3, redirect it. Ask, what can I build with this? What can I fix with this? What can I create with this? That's the shift from emotional consumption to emotional creation. Step 4. Repeat it. Every time you face emotion, repeat the process until it becomes your default. You'll find yourself becoming steady under stress, focused under fire, calm in chaos. Because mastery doesn't come from avoiding emotion. It comes from owning it. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. Stop wasting emotional energy on people who don't deserve it. Stop venting just to feel heard. Stop reacting to every trigger like you're powerless. You're not powerless. You're unfocused. Your energy leaks through distraction, through drama, through overthinking. Every complaint burns your fuel. Every argument drains your battery. Every emotional outburst steals your progress. The solution? Contain the energy. Channel it into movement, into discipline, into results. That's what transformation looks like. The world doesn't reward emotional explosions. It rewards emotional execution. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. And remember, you don't need permission to feel. You don't need approval to be passionate. Emotion isn't your flaw. It's your foundation. Without emotion, there's no art, no ambition, no revolution. Emotion moves mountains when mastered. It destroys lives when uncontrolled. The same fire that cooks your meal can burn down your house. The difference is direction. You have a choice. Every time emotion rises, you choose. Will you waste it or will you wield it? That's the key. That's mastery. Emotion is energy. Emotion is power. Emotion is fuel. Control the flame. You've learned how to transform chaos into clarity, how to turn raw emotion into relentless drive. You've learned to master your inner fire, not extinguish it, but direct it. That's emotional discipline. That's inner control. That's mental toughness in motion. Now, it's time to take that emotional energy and fuse it with consistency, the quiet force that separates the good from the great. Chapter 7. Silence is strategy. Most people talk too much. They talk when they're unsure. They talk when they should listen. They talk to prove they know something but reveal they don't. The powerful don't waste words. They use silence as a weapon. They observe. They process. They act. Only when it counts. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. You don't win by being the loudest voice in the room. You win by being the most deliberate mind in the room. That's the key. Speak less. Observe more. Move with precision. Look around. The loudest people crave attention. The quiet ones command it. Because silence radiates control. It signals restraint. It communicates confidence without a single word. You've seen it. The CEO who sits through an entire meeting without saying a thing until the end. When they finally speak, every head turns. Every word lands.
Why?
Because silence built gravity around their voice. That's what you must learn. Silence builds weight. And weight builds authority. You don't need to prove yourself with words. You prove yourself with presence. That's the key. Speak less. Observe more. Move with precision. Here's the truth most people never learn. Every time you speak, you reveal your emotional state. Your words betray your insecurities. Your tone reveals your need for validation. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius didn't boast. He didn't explain. He simply acted. He ruled through composure, not chatter. When you master silence, you master perception. And perception is power. Because silence forces others to fill the space. They start revealing themselves, their fears, their motives, their weaknesses. While you remain calm, still, observant. You learn everything, while giving nothing. That's strategy. That's control. Speak less. Observe more. Move with precision. There's a saying, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Silence lets others expose themselves. The impatient reveal their lack of discipline. The arrogant reveal their insecurity. The reactive reveal their weakness. When you speak too soon, you lose information. When you stay silent, you gather leverage. That's how negotiators win deals. That's how leaders build trust. That's how warriors survive battles. They wait, they read, they strike when it matters. Silence is not doing nothing. It's doing something powerful. It's listening. Listening is an act of skill. It's mental training. It's awareness in motion. You can't think deeply if you're talking constantly. You can't see clearly if you're always explaining yourself. You don't need to broadcast your every thought. You need to refine it. That's mastery.
Speak less.
Observe more. Move with precision. Let's break this down into practical steps, because strategy means nothing without discipline. Step 1. Control the impulse to speak.
Before you respond, pause.
That pause is power. That second of silence separates reaction from response. Most people speak to escape silence. They can't stand the gap. They need to fill the void. Don't be like them. When you pause, you regain control. Your brain catches up with your mouth. Your words become deliberate instead of emotional. You'll be shocked how many problems disappear when you just say less. Step 2. Listen 90% of the time. Think of the great CEOs, the great leaders, the great minds. They ask questions and then shut up. They let silence do the work. They let others reveal information freely. Every second you're quiet, you're learning. You're studying tone, body language, confidence, contradiction. You're collecting data. Others are too busy talking to notice. That's strategic silence. It's not passivity. It's awareness turned into advantage.
Speak less.
Observe more. Move with precision. Step 3. Speak only when your words serve a purpose. Ask yourself before you speak. Does this add clarity or just noise? Does this move things forward or just make me feel important? Most people speak to feel relevant. The wise speak to be effective. You don't need to contribute to every conversation. You don't need to comment on every issue. You don't need to defend yourself against every opinion. Silence says what words can't. I'm focused. I'm grounded. I'm not here to impress you.
That's strength.
That's self-respect. That's stoic stillness in action. Now let's talk about precision. Precision is what separates silence from laziness. Because silence alone isn't the goal, strategic silence is. You stay quiet not because you're afraid, but because you're collecting data. You move deliberately not because you're hesitant, but because you've calculated. Precision is when silence becomes action, not avoidance. You wait until the right time. You speak the right words. You move with the right intent. One word can change a conversation. One sentence can shift a power dynamic. That's why you don't waste them. When your words are rare, they become valuable. When they're valuable, people listen.
Speak less.
Observe more. Move with precision. You have to unlearn what the world taught you about noise. Social media teaches you to overshare. Culture teaches you to react instantly. Society rewards volume over depth. But that's how average people operate: loud, frantic, directionless. You are not average. Your strength will come from restraint. Your clarity will come from quiet. Your results will come from precision. You don't need to announce your every move. You don't need to explain your every decision. You don't need to argue to prove you're right. Let your results speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your silence speak. That's the power of stillness in action. Remember this. The quietest person in the room often runs it. Not because they dominate, but because they direct. They're not distracted by chatter. They're studying it. They're not drained by arguments. They're observing patterns. They're not performing, they're planning. Every great strategist, from generals to entrepreneurs, uses silence to gather insight and strike effectively. When others are talking, you're listening. When others are reacting, you're calculating. When others are wasting energy, you're building momentum. That's how you win, quietly, steadily, relentlessly.
Speak less.
Observe more. Move with precision. Silence isn't empty. It's full of information. It's full of power. It's full of discipline. When you learn to sit in silence without fear, you discover your inner authority. You stop needing validation. You start commanding respect. Because real power never announces itself. It just is. That's the Stoic way. That's mastery in motion. That's how you build strength that can't be shaken. You've learned how to turn silence into power. How to use stillness as strategy. How to master words instead of being mastered by them. You've learned that silence is not retreat, it's readiness. Now it's time to explore the next level of Stoic control, the one that decides the direction of your life. Chapter 8. The enemy is your ego. Let's be clear. The greatest threat to your growth isn't failure. It isn't fear. It's ego. Ego whispers lies. It tells you you're special when you haven't earned it. It tells you you're right when you should be learning. It tells you you're done when you've barely started. Ego is the enemy. It thrives on attention. It feeds on validation. It demands to be seen, to be heard, to be worshipped. But here's the truth. The louder your ego gets, the weaker your discipline becomes. You can't master yourself while serving your ego. You can't grow while protecting your pride. You can't improve while pretending you already know. Kill the ego. Build the mission. That's the key. Ego loves comfort. It wants praise. It wants safety. It wants applause for effort, not excellence. That's why it's so dangerous. Because ego doesn't push you forward, it holds you hostage. The Stoics knew this. They saw ego as the ultimate barrier to wisdom. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of the most powerful empire on earth, yet he reminded himself every morning, "You're just a man. You'll soon be dust." He ruled millions, but humbled himself daily. That's power. Not arrogance. Not noise. Stillness.
Discipline.
Awareness. He killed the ego. He built the mission. Now contrast that with every story of collapse. A general who thought he couldn't lose. A leader who thought he was untouchable. An artist who thought he didn't need to improve. They all fell. Not because the world destroyed them, because ego did. Ego blinds you to reality. It blocks feedback. It rejects humility. It makes you deaf to reason. The moment you stop listening, you stop learning. The moment you stop learning, you start decaying. That's how people rot, while looking successful on the outside. Because the ego makes them worship the image instead of the process. Don't fall for that trap.
Kill the ego.
Build the mission. You must understand this. Ego is not confidence. Confidence is earned. Ego is borrowed. A confidence is quiet. Ego is loud. Confidence seeks mastery. Ego seeks validation. Confidence says, "Let's get better." Ego says, "I'm already great." Confidence is built on discipline. Ego is built on insecurity. So when you catch yourself craving recognition, pause. When you catch yourself defending mediocrity, pause. When you catch yourself needing to be right, pause. That's your ego speaking. That's the voice that will destroy your potential if you let it. You have a choice. You can feed the ego, or you can feed the mission. But you can't serve both. That's the key. Ego is reactive. It takes everything personally. It turns every challenge into an attack. It transforms feedback into insult. That's why egoic people are miserable. They live in constant emotional warfare. The Stoic solution?
Detach.
Separate your worth from your performance. Your identity from your opinions. You made a mistake? Good. Learn. You were wrong? Excellent. Adjust. You failed publicly?
Perfect. Grow.
That's how you beat ego. With humility. With stillness. With brutal self-awareness. Because ego cannot survive in humility. It suffocates in honesty. It dies in silence.
Kill the ego.
Build the mission. You want to know what real strength looks like? It's not being the loudest in the room. It's not posting your wins for approval. It's not defending your pride at every turn. Real strength is silent progress. It's saying "I don't know" without fear. It's admitting "I was wrong" without shame. It's learning from criticism without collapsing. Because every time you do, you grow sharper, stronger, freer. You're no longer chained to image. You're no longer addicted to praise. You're free to focus on what matters, the mission. That's how the great ones move. They don't chase applause. They chase mastery. They don't talk about who they are. They prove it through what they do. Kill the ego. Build the mission. Here's the truth. Ego wants you to chase attention because attention feels like progress. But it's not. You can get attention for being loud. You can get followers for being controversial. You can get likes for pretending to know. But none of that builds strength. None of that builds peace. None of that builds wisdom. You don't need their permission to grow quietly. You don't need their validation to be powerful. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone but your future self. Stop performing. Start improving. Stop seeking credit. Start seeking mastery. That's the shift. Let's get practical. How do you destroy the ego daily? First, seek truth over comfort. When something challenges your pride, lean into it. Ask yourself, is this a threat or is this a lesson? Ego sees threat. Growth sees lesson. Choose growth. Second, let your results speak. Talk less about what you'll do. Show it through consistency. Show it through execution. Let your silence be your statement. Third, practice humility. Not fake humility, real humility. The kind that says, I'm capable, but I have more to learn. The kind that seeks to understand before judging. The kind that listens instead of reacts. Humility doesn't make you small. It makes you unshakable.
Kill the ego.
Build the mission. Remember, the ego wants fame. The mission wants impact. The ego wants comfort. The mission wants growth. The ego wants followers. The mission wants progress. The ego wants to be seen. The mission wants to serve. One path ends in collapse. The other ends in mastery. You decide which one you walk. You have a choice. Feed your pride or feed your purpose. Defend your image or build your legacy. That's the crossroads. You can't be both the performer and the warrior. You can't be both the critic and the creator. You can't be both the loud voice and the still mind. Choose stillness. Choose awareness. Choose humility. That's how you stay grounded when success tries to inflate you. That's how you stay calm when failure tries to define you. You remember, you're not your achievements. You're not your applause. You're the discipline behind both.
Kill the ego.
Build the mission. The ego dies when purpose rises. When your focus shifts from me to the mission. When you stop needing to look powerful and start working to be powerful. That's the transformation. That's Stoic mastery. That's emotional control turned into real-world strength.
Kill the ego.
Build the mission. Because when the ego is gone, you stop living for attention and start living for meaning. You stop reacting and start ruling. You stop crumbling and start commanding. You don't need their praise. You don't need their eyes. You need your direction. And once you have it, nothing can shake you. Chapter 9. Choose discipline over emotion. Here's a truth most people refuse to admit. Your emotions are not your guide. They are your storm. They rise, they fall, they demand attention, and if you let them, they will destroy your life. Anger will dictate your actions. Fear will freeze your progress. Desire will scatter your focus.
Discipline is the antidote.
Discipline is the calm hand steering the ship through the storm. Discipline is your only reliable compass in a world of emotional chaos. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. The undisciplined react. They lash out when anger rises. They collapse when fear strikes. They chase pleasure when desire tempts. And they wonder why life feels out of control. The disciplined, the few who rise above, do something different. They see the storm. They acknowledge it. Then they act with purpose, not impulse. That's the key. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Look at the world's top performers. Not the lucky ones, the consistent, relentless achievers. They follow routines. They build systems. They ritualize success. Morning routines are not trivial. They are training grounds for the mind. The person who wakes before the world, who runs, who journals, who plans, is already winning before the day begins. Because the undisciplined let emotions dictate when they wake, when they work, when they rest. They wake tired. They work distracted. They live reactive. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Discipline doesn't feel good. It's not entertaining. It's not glamorous. But discipline works.
Every
single
time.
You don't have to wait for motivation. You don't have to wait to feel ready. You act because you're disciplined. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is permanent. And that's why discipline is your ultimate weapon. Not talent. Not luck. Not emotion. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Let's break down how discipline beats emotion in real-world scenarios. Scenario 1. You're angry. The undisciplined lash out. They argue. They post. They escalate. The disciplined pause. They breathe. They choose action that builds, not reaction that destroys. Anger becomes energy. Energy becomes focus. Focus becomes results. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Scenario 2. You're afraid. The undisciplined run. They avoid. They shrink. The disciplined face fear deliberately. They prepare. They move. They use fear as a signal, not a jailer. Fear loses power when discipline leads. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's disciplined action in spite of fear. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Scenario 3. You're tempted. Temptation comes in the form of pleasure, comfort, shortcuts. The undisciplined give in. They justify. They delay progress. The disciplined say no. They say no again. They repeat until restraint becomes instinct. Because restraint is not weakness. It is strength in action. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Here's the principle you must internalize. You are always choosing. Every thought, every action, every reaction. You have a choice. You can act on emotion, or you can act on discipline. That's it. Nothing complicated. Just a choice. And choices determine destiny. You have a choice. That's the key. Discipline is about building habits that outlast your feelings. Habits are silent forces. They work while motivation fades. They carry you when energy drains. They protect you when temptation calls. The morning run. The journaling session. The planning of the day. The refusal to scroll social media. These are not small actions. These are the foundation of power. They wire your mind to prioritize long-term growth over short-term comfort. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Let's be brutally honest. Discipline hurts. It hurts to get up early. It hurts to say no. It hurts to stay focused when the world is screaming distraction. But emotion doesn't get stronger by whining. Emotion doesn't become useful by giving in. Emotion only becomes a tool when discipline channels it. Discipline is the bridge between potential and achievement.
Discipline is the engine.
Emotion is the fuel. But without the engine, the fuel burns uselessly. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Here's the reality. The undisciplined chase feeling. They wait to feel like it. They wait to be inspired. They wait to be in the mood. The disciplined act anyway. They execute. They perform. They progress. Because life rewards action, not emotion. It rewards consistency, not mood. It rewards mastery, not reaction. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Now, here's your practical blueprint. Step 1. Design your rituals. Wake early. Exercise. Plan your day. Journal. Set priorities. Do it consistently. Don't negotiate. Don't skip. Discipline becomes automatic. Step 2. Practice restraint. Whenever emotion spikes, anger, fear, desire, pause.
Breathe.
Decide your action based on principle, not impulse. Step 3. Measure results, not feelings. Your feelings are unreliable. Your actions are proof. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Step 4. Repeat relentlessly. Discipline compounds. It grows silently. It overtakes talent. It surpasses luck. That's how ordinary people become extraordinary. That's how you gain control over your inner storm. You have to unlearn the lie that emotion drives success. It doesn't. It seduces. It distracts. It destroys. Discipline drives success. Discipline empowers. Discipline endures. When you act out of emotion, you're a passenger. When you act out of discipline, you're the driver. And life rewards the driver. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. Remember this. Every time you feel the pull of emotion, ask yourself, do I want to react or do I want to master? Every time you're tempted to indulge, ask yourself, do I want instant gratification or do I want results? Every time you want to quit, ask yourself, do I want comfort or do I want progress? Discipline is hard. Emotion is easy. The choice is yours. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. You are not your feelings. You are your choices. You are your habits. You are your actions. And your actions determine your destiny. Discipline is not a suggestion. It is your weapon. It is your anchor. It is your superpower. You have a choice. You have the key. Discipline first. Emotion second. Always. You've learned how to control your emotions. You've learned how to turn chaos into fuel. You've learned how to act in spite of temptation and distraction. That's mastery in practice. That's the quiet force behind every great life. That's the calm hand steering the ship. Chapter 10. The Still Mind Wins. Here's the ultimate truth about mastery. Everything you've learned in this audiobook, emotional control, mental toughness, quiet discipline, leads to one final skill. A skill so powerful it makes every challenge manageable. A skill so rare it sets you apart from 99% of people. Stillness. A still mind wins. Stillness is not laziness. Stillness is not avoidance. Stillness is control. And control is freedom. Freedom is power. Stillness is the quiet command that nothing external can shake you. No insult can wound you. No chaos can unseat you. No failure can define you. You've learned to react less. You've learned to detach from noise. You've learned to discipline over emotion. Now you take it to the final level. Stillness is mastery. Let's be clear. The world is noisy. The world is chaotic. People are reactive, impulsive, emotional, fragile. And most will crumble under pressure. They will allow anger to rule them. They will allow fear to dominate them. They will allow ego to blind them. You will not. Because you have trained yourself. You have chosen discipline. You have silenced the noise. That's why stillness is not just peace. It is power. Take Nelson Mandela. 27 years in prison. Isolated. Humiliated. Threatened. He could have reacted with rage. He could have broken under the weight of injustice. He could have allowed his mind to be consumed by resentment. But he chose stillness. Calm resolve. Unshakable discipline. Mental sovereignty. When he walked out of prison, the world saw a leader. What the world didn't see were the years of inner stillness that made that leadership possible. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. That's the key. Stillness begins with awareness. You notice your thoughts without being enslaved by them. You observe emotions without reacting. You assess reality without judgment. Most people let thoughts hijack them. They let emotions define their actions. They let circumstances dictate their inner state. You will not. You have a choice.
Choose stillness.
Choose control. Choose freedom. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. Here's how you build a still mind in practice. Step 1. Train your attention. Notice your reactions. Catch the impulse to lash out, panic, or overreact.
Pause.
Observe. Decide deliberately. Step 2. Accept reality as it is. You cannot control what happens, only how you respond. This is not defeatism. It is liberation. Accept the moment, the circumstance, the challenge. Then act from calm, not chaos. Stillness is control.
Control is freedom.
Freedom is power. Step 3. Build mental reserves. Daily reflection, meditation, journaling, focus exercises, deep work. Train your mind to remain present, to see clearly, to act deliberately. Because a mind that is busy, scattered, or reactive can never be still. Stillness requires preparation. Stillness requires discipline. Stillness requires relentless self-awareness. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. Let's examine the power of stillness in action. Scenario: You are insulted publicly. The undisciplined explode. They argue. They retaliate. They humiliate themselves. The disciplined pause. They breathe. They act deliberately. They respond only when it serves purpose. Scenario. You face failure. The undisciplined panic. They collapse. They let fear define them. The disciplined pause. They analyze. They adjust. They use failure as fuel for growth. Scenario. You are pressured to make a decision. The undisciplined panic. They act hastily. They regret immediately. The disciplined pause. They calculate. They move with precision. They succeed while others stumble. Stillness is not inaction. Stillness is the foundation of deliberate, powerful action. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. Let's reinforce this with repetition, because mastery is built on repeated truths. You have a choice. You don't need to react. You don't need to chase validation. You don't need to let chaos define your mind. You have a choice. You can choose stillness. You can choose clarity. You can choose freedom. You have a choice. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. Here's the practice that separates the average from the extraordinary. Pause before every action. Notice the emotion. Notice the thought. Notice the impulse. Then act deliberately. Detach from outcomes. You cannot control others, circumstances, or chance. You can control your mind. That is all you need. Anchor yourself in principle. Your values, your purpose, your mission, these are your guideposts. Chaos cannot move them. Noise cannot distract them. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. Remember, most people never achieve this level. They chase pleasure. They chase attention. They chase validation. They react to the world instead of ruling their inner domain. You will not. You have trained through chapters 1 through 9. You've learned to stop reacting, detach from the noise, control yourself instead of controlling others, convert pain into information, channel emotion rather than waste it, speak less and observe more, kill the ego, discipline over emotion. Now, you consolidate all of it. The still mind wins. When your mind is still, nothing external can shake you. No insult can wound you. No praise can inflate you. No circumstance can define you. You act from clarity. You move with precision. You command attention without trying. You achieve results without drama. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. Let's close with a challenge, because mastery requires action. Sit quietly today. Observe your mind. Notice the impulses, the desires, the fears. Do not act immediately. Do not react.
Do not justify. Pause. Breathe.
Decide. You have a choice.
Choose stillness.
Choose control. Choose freedom. Then carry that into every conversation, every decision, every challenge. Because the person with a still mind wins every silent war. They navigate chaos while others drown in it. They act while others panic. They lead while others follow blindly. Stillness is control. Control is freedom. Freedom is power. And now you are ready. The storm will come. The chaos will rise. The world will demand reaction. Stand still. Rule your mind. Win your life. You mastered fear. You mastered discipline. You mastered the ego. You mastered emotion. Now you master everything. Stillness wins. Always.